then or now.
Well, see, Von Braun was, though. He was a real...
Von Braun was an individual.
He was, and he had a lot of morals and ethics. That's why he had such a hard time doing work with V-2s, the way the Germans were using them. And
the collectivism of national security doesn't allow for morality. The individuals within that system, of course, have it.
Yeah, it's sad.
Sad but true. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Art Bell and David Adair. Hello.
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 Hi, Art. This is Joe from San Francisco.
Hi, Joe.
And I have a question. The first thing I want to say is that your program is the most outstanding program I've ever heard.
Thank you. It is different.
And I'm really, really into the UFO and the government problems and all that. I spent 20 years in the Navy. But anyway, I wanted to ask David, number one, how do you spell your last name?
Adair, A-D-A-I-R.
Oh, like the author. Okay. Next question was, you were talking about the engine and the vehicle and the people, saying that it was an ascension beings that the whole thing was kind of a collective, connected together type thing?
Right.
And this was called what?
Symbiotic technology.
Symbiotic technology.
In other words, that the engine that he examined, the power plant that he examined, was symbiotically run, just the way modern jets are beginning to be symbiotically run by their pilots. It might give you a little hint about where that technology began.
Imagine an engine that you could literally, physically talk to, and it talks back to you.
Or think to.
Yeah,
right.
Actually you think together.
Uh-huh.
That's symbiotic technology.
That's unreal.
It's coming.
The thing that I wanted to ask, too, well, not ask you, but in the early 50s, I was really into this type of situation, too, and I had thought back then about the speed of light travel using electromagnetic field propulsion where you project it and then recapture it. Is that a feasible thing to look at, or am I way out in left field somewhere?
No, nobody's out of anything. I mean, somebody's theory, it sounds strange to us, it could be the right one. One thing about theoretical physics, nobody's right or wrong, and you really can't prove somebody wrong no more you can prove them right.
Well, I remember in high school, David, they would give us a test. They had a machine, and there would be a little red light that would come on, and you had your foot on an accelerator like you were in a car.
Uh-huh.
And when the little red light came on, you had to, as fast as you could, slam on the brake.
Okay.
And that tested your reaction time.
That's
now,
right.
a lot of things have to happen for your brain, for that red light to come on, your brain to process the information, your foot to begin to move from the accelerator to the brake. A lot of things have to happen before that brake is hit, and there's a little meter that would show what your reaction time was. Now, if instead of that lash up, you had something that was symbiotic, and all you had to do was think stop when the red light came on, it would be very difficult to measure the time interval before you hit the brake mentally.
It'd be instantaneous.
Exactly.
Like trying to beat a light bulb going off before you can get to the bed.
Exactly right. And so I can imagine at the speeds and the kind of maneuverability that such a craft would have, a symbiotic relationship would be absolutely necessary.
It would be.
Or we'd have Roswells all over the place.
Yeah.
Wildcard line, you're on the air with David Adair and Art Bell. Hi.
Hi. I'm calling from South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
David, do you know Art's friend, Stan Deo?
No, I don't recognize the name.
Stan Deo lives in Australia. A very fine man indeed. He's done a lot of work with naval satellite imagery. You probably don't know Stan. One of these days you ought to meet him. I can hook you up. Why do you ask, caller?
I believe I heard Stan say on your show one night that he had worked with anti-gravity, and that was how he got involved with the government.
He absolutely said that, yes.
That's interesting.
Oh, yes. You're not the only one out there, David. Stan Deyo is indeed another. There are many.
Well, I'm sure. It would be a dangerous thing to get them all collected at one place.
Well, I think that was the dream of C. SETI, really.
Right.
And I wish that it would come true, and maybe if we just keep pushing. There's a fellow that I'm working with who is a Washington lobbyist who's trying to get things going in Washington and has worked with Dr. Greer. And they're making some very serious efforts now, so maybe. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with David Adair and Art Bell. Hello.
Sorry. I was wondering if some of the thought control techniques like Major Ed Dames uses with remote viewing,
Yeah.
if that type of thing could be used to, give better control, like with these pilots that can't control their emotions or whatever, to give them better control.
Well, I would imagine that pilots, that's an interesting question. Where are you, caller?
San Antonio.
San Antonio, all right. I would imagine that pilots who are being introduced to the symbiotic method of control of modern high-performance jets are very carefully screened and trained. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Now, whether it would move into a discipline that would include remote viewing, no, I doubt it, but some of the disciplines they might have to go through might be similar. Do you know much about that, David?
The only thing that I do know that's required, even the pilots today, is that they have to learn to compartmentalize really well. In other words, everything that they ever think of is going on in life, they can put it in a compartment, close the door, and it never comes back up into their conscious thoughts.
Yeah.
So when they sit down in a craft, they're totally focused at all times on what they're doing, and they never let their mind stray, not even for a second. And boy, that takes some discipline.
It certainly does. Okay, Wild Card Line, you're on the air with David Adair and Art Bell. Hello.
Hi, my name is Gabriel in L.A.
Hi, Gabriel.
A couple quick questions. David, when you come out here to Hollywood, are you going to have any lectures out here?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes, I do. I'm glad you asked that. I'll be doing a Whole Life Expo on November 22nd.
Okay.
I will be doing a lecture out there.
Where is that?
That will be in L.A. Matter of fact,
Well, L.A. is a big place. Do you have it?
right here. Yeah, hold on. California Mart.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be talking at 11 o'clock, on Sunday, which is the 23rd.
Great.
And I'll be doing two programs on Sunday, one at 11 o'clock and one at 12 o'clock.
Okay. Another question. Nanotechnology. You talked about this engine sort of being alive and organic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our bodies are like, made up of cells.
Right.
I was wondering if maybe this was some form of advanced nanotechnology.
All right, it's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The material that it looked like it was made of, it was strange. Some parts of it were so rigid that I could stand on it. There was no give of any kind, like any alloyed steel. There were other parts that were interwoven with the hard parts that had a soft, pliable texture, very similar to like a, I don't know if you know how a dolphin feels, but it feels like a dolphin. It was real slick and smooth like that.
Never felt a dolphin, but I can imagine that.
You can look at their bodies. It's kind of firm but still soft. But what was interesting is that the way they were coupled together, you couldn't hardly see a dividing line between it, where you'd have a hard part and a soft part.
Well, wouldn't the merging of those kinds of materials require something at a nanotechnological level to achieve it?
I had no idea. I would assume it had to be some kind of technological process that we're not at any level at this point.
Well, nanotechnology is the promise ultimately of microscopic or submicroscopic machines capable of creating and duplicating and replicating themselves until finally you end up with what is ordered. In other words,
like a replicator from Star Trek.
Yes, sir.
The same thing.
Yeah, along those lines, yes.
Right, that I'd understand. But for this thing to have done the way it looks, once again, it goes back to where it looks like alloys that grew. That's the only way I can describe it.
That grew. Well,
That's
see,
right.
that would make sense. And of course, in our real world, the one we know for sure about, we are beginning to experiment now with nanotechnology, and maybe we're just starting down that road, or maybe we've been sent down that
I was
road.
going to say, wonder where they got the ideas, Art.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've got time for one last. East of the Rockies, you're on there with David Adair and Art Bell. Hi.